Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today, I've got Master Lim with us. Super excited to have you here, Master Lim. Thank you so much for joining us today. So for those of you who don't know who Master Lim is, could you give us a quick introduction for yourself, please?
So I am Master Lim. I'm a 23-year-old freedom lifestyle entrepreneur. I am very passionate about helping people take their life, their business to the next level. I love to teach people about everything downstream, allowing everything to come to you rather than needing to force anything, rather than needing to fight anything. I travel pretty much every single week. I'm in a different airport or a different location. I speak on a lot of different stages all around the world. Along with my mentors and my coaches. And I'm just here to be a positive source of inspiration to help people anywhere in the world and to just show people financial success, happiness within success, abundant success in all areas of their life. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and also I wanted to mention, like, Master Lim goes live in the Creator Circle, Eric Ho's Creator Circle on the Facebook group. So if you guys are not a part of that yet, there'll be a link in the description below so that you guys can join that. And when he goes live in there, it's awesome, man. He talks about a lot of really important stuff for life that I've already learned a lot from him already. So that's kind of one of the things that the very first start, to the questions that I had for you is like, how would you describe your personal style?
My personal style. My personal style is it's very free flow. To be honest with you, I'm a very different individual compared to a lot of people. I don't do anything structured. I am the least serious person that you will ever come across. Like, it takes a lot to get me to be serious. Even in serious situations when I'm needed to be serious, I'm like the least serious person that you can ever have. That's what really gets me through life, is being able to laugh through literally everything and anything. No matter if you give me the same situation as another individual who finds that to be a problem, I'll find there to be a solution within that, and I'll find something to laugh at with that. So very downstream, very easy, very chilled out, very people orientated. And yeah, just here to live life, love life, and to embrace every single day to the best of my ability.
That's awesome, man. And, that's one of the things that I've really started to do myself as well. And I think that's really important, to for a lot of the listeners, if you guys are struggling, like how to figure out how to just make a small change in your life to start making a difference in your happiness, is go with the flow. Don't get upset at things that come into your life. Don't get frustrated when, you feel the contrast that's happening. Life is happening to us. It's not happening to us, it's happening for us. And if you keep feeling like life is happening to you, there's a lesson there that you're missing. So, pay attention to those little things and you'll start being able to make a real big difference in it. So next question here is that how would you encourage innovative ideas?
Innovative ideas. To be honest with you, whenever it comes to ideas, for me personally, when you can tune yourself into the frequency of allowing source energy to channel through you, right? Not needing to control thing or to say this needs to be my idea and this is something that I'm going to create, but to allow the collective consciousness to create that through you. And I don't know if any of the listeners on here is maybe thinking, what is he talking about right now? But everything that I've created in my life up until this point has not been me, Master Lim, has not been the physical form of myself. I'm 23. I've never been to university and college. I'm not the smartest tool going. I am a very literally, show me something, I'll listen. Let me absorb something. Let me download something. I think the best form of creativity is getting out of the way, getting your ego to step out of the way and letting source energy and that intelligence to flow through you so that you can allow the ideas of the divine to present themselves to you. And when you do that, trust me one thing, that's where the magic happens in life. That's where the biggest things happen. That's where the biggest breakthroughs happen, because it's not a physical form of this human version of me, but it's greater consciousness of both human and spiritual coming together to put the ideas and the creativity to flow through. So when you get yourself out of the way, when you put ego to one side, when you put needing to be right, when you put needing to have my idea on a piece of paper, the things you can do, the creativity that will flow through you is you will shock yourself. The results that I've been able to pull into my life, the teams that I've been able to build, the people that I have been able to inspire has not been me. It's been this greater power that exists, which is greater than you, me, and everyone around us, that has created you, me, and everyone around us, that allows for me to do that. And that's just where the beauty is.
Yeah. And, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think one of the biggest things that I've made the changes in my life is, and Eric says this, he says, if you have the opportunity to be right or to be kind, always choose kindness.
Yeah.
And there's another saying that I heard recently too was, sometimes peace is better than being right.
Yeah, of course.
And I'll tell you right now, like I've really made a big focus on that being like the way that I approach everything, even my thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm thinking about something, the other day I was thinking to myself, like somebody did something here in the building that I live in, and I thought to myself, what an a-hole. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. Like even just that thought, sends off a sequence that we don't want. And so I actually apologized to that person in my thoughts, and I said, hey, I'm sorry for calling you that. Who am I to judge? I don't know what kind of day you're having, right? So
and for those people watching, just try it with yourself. A simple strategy that you can try is that if somebody sends you a text message and you maybe necessarily don't agree with it, you don't need to put your opinion and voice your opinion back. You can just simply text back and just say, thank you so much for your thoughts, or thank you for your input, and respect it. You don't need to be right. You don't need to put your opinion there. But a lot of people in the world that we live in, a lot of people find the need within themselves to type that aggressive message or to say that thing to their partner or to their loved one. Well, you should have been here and you should have done this. It's like, give yourself the peace that you deserve within to not even need to go that far,
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and that's exactly, I think, to point out what you just said right there, give yourself the peace within.
Exactly, yeah.
Because the peace that I actually just wrote this in my journal the other day, the peace of mind that I now have since I've changed my lifestyle to like being that way, being kind or going for peace versus being right, is blissful. Like, people ask me how my day's going, and my answer is, depending on whether they're younger or older, is either freaking phenomenal or fucking phenomenal, right? And I'm telling you, like, yeah, I actually feel that way. And it's because like that inner peace is just, it's blissful. You can't beat it. And there's not now, like, I wouldn't even think of going back and acting any other way than something that gives me this inner peace, right? So earlier you mentioned that you were only 23?
Just turned 23, yeah.
Okay, happy birthday, by the way, belated.
A couple of months ago, just early days, 23.
Okay, right on. So obviously and I remember you mentioned your story a little bit back at SPL, you taken quite a few risks, right? So what would you say, like, how did you learn to embrace risk taking?
To be honest with you, I think I've always had that fiery, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Is it going to be scary? Yes. Am I ready for the challenge? Yes. Whenever I see a challenge, do I pull a smile on my face? Every single time. Because I really do understand, and this is the biggest thing that I see in this world that we live in. People know a lot of things. They know that with great risk comes great reward. They know that their dreams and their goals are on the other side of fear. They know that they need to step out of their comfort zone and take action, but it's the minority of people that actually do, right? And this was the biggest thing for me. I said to myself, okay, I'm child number 4. Child number 4 of 5 decides to come along and say, hey, I'm not going to university. I'm not going to college. I'm going to go out into the real world. Like, that's what the fuck whenever an Irish mother and father hears that. It's like, what's going on here? I decided I'm going to invest in myself by taking out a $15,000 loan. I'm going to apply for 2 credit cards and a personal loan. What the fuck? Like, are you right now? But I, as an individual, I knew deep down, and this is again another thing that I see, is that a lot of people say I believe in myself, but whenever I actually go deep with them, they actually don't. They say the words,
right?
But when you get to the core, they've got a lot of blockages.
Yeah.
I believe that I'm going to do this. I believe that I'm going to do that. And when you go deep with them, a lot of people, they really don't. They're saying one thing, but their internal is projecting another thing. And the reason for a lot of that stuff that comes up is because of the conditioning that a lot of people have had. And it's not their fault to a certain degree, because their teachers, their peer groups, their parents, what they've heard growing up is what they've been given. That's what they've heard growing up. So they do not know any different. So they make decisions on fear. They make decisions based on what people might think of them. And my greatest advice is to always go within. And I love this quote. It's something that I said from one of my spiritual masters. They said, if you can't learn to go within, you will always go without.
Yeah.
You will go without your dreams being fulfilled. You will go without happiness. You will go without being around the people that you want to be in. If you can't learn to go in and you're making everybody else and everything else happy on the external, you're neglecting yourself. That's not cool. In my world, that is not cool. And everybody that I connect with, I just love to make sure that people's living their dharma, their passion. And if that means taking risk, I will advise the risk. I will say, throw yourself in there. People say, but what if it doesn't work out? I say, well, what if it does? It's
Right.
like, what's the worst that could happen? What's the best that could happen?
Right.
And we'll evaluate those two situations.
Yeah.
For me now, risk is like a thing I get excited about. If I want something and I know risk is coming up, I was like, where's the risk pool? I'm diving right in.
Right.
You know?
Like how big's the risk meter?
Yeah, that's it. Like at the end of the day, if it feels right, if it's something that you want, if it's something that your inner being's calling for, just go for it. I don't want to live with regret.
Yeah. And I want to kind of piggyback off something that you said just a second ago about going within. For me, in my past, I used to be a very giving person, and still am, but now I'm very cautious about how I do it. Right. And because like you said, if you're constantly giving without paying attention to yourself, it ends up, you can end up in a really bad position. And I can tell you by personal experience, I've lived the extreme of that. Right. I mean, I was homeless for 2.5 years, living in a tent, so it's like, I know I've had it all. I've had the $1 million business where I had the fancy cars, the big house, the wife, even the perfect marriage. I mean, everything was great, but unfortunately I wasn't happy. And so that lowered my vibration. And of course what happened, shortly, little by little, everything started to disappear until it was all gone. And so the struggle for me while I was homeless was still blaming other people for my mistakes. Right. And once I stopped looking externally for answers and went within, like you said just a second ago, that's when I found the kingdom of heaven. Nice. And realized that was within me the whole entire time. And it was just a matter of going like, oh.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I'm not too sure if you're familiar with Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer, one of my biggest spiritual teachers that I've learned a lot from. He tells this story, I'm not too sure if you're familiar with it, where this guy John was in his house one night and he dropped a set of keys in his house. And he was looking for his keys, and he was looking for his keys. And next thing, the electricity went out, and he tried looking for them, and he could not find these keys for the life of him. So he looked outside, and he could see that there was a street light on outside. And he went outside, and he was like, okay, there's a light out there. And he started looking underneath this lamppost, and his neighbor came down, and he said, hey, what are you looking for? And he said, I'm looking for my keys. I've dropped my keys and I cannot find them. So the neighbor starts helping him, and the two of them are looking for these keys. No sign of the keys. And the neighbor turns around and he said, yo, bro, where did you last have the keys? Was it this area? Was it this area? And he says, oh no, I last dropped them when I was inside my living room. And he was like, well, what are you doing looking out here for your keys? And the moral of the story was a lot of people are looking for happiness and fulfillment outside of themselves when the keys to everything that they want is within. And when you're so busy pointing the finger this way and blaming everybody else, remember there's 3 fingers pointing back at you.
I like that.
Always within.
Yeah, I like that. And I heard that one time before, but I like the way that you described it right now, because they didn't say you have 3 pink fingers pointing right back at you. And I'll tell you, that was like literally the biggest thing for me is when I took responsibility for my actions. Yeah. And I think it was you that mentioned this, was that, whether regardless of your role in the situation, whether a perpetrator or victim, you still had a role in it. Right. And so, because at any point, there's another gentleman that I know, he's a life coach as well. And he says there is no victims. There's only volunteers.
That's it.
Because you've chosen to stay in that situation. So at any point in time, you could have walked away. There was, unless you had a gun to your head, which is not too many of us can say that we have. I can tell you in my life, all the situations that led me to being homeless, living on the streets with nothing, there was no gun to my head. Those are all my choices. So that means that I had a choice to walk away from those things that made me feel that way at any given time, and I didn't. So, but once I did what we were just talking about, going within, that's when my whole entire life changed. So that was awesome. So now, talking about like this right here, because this is something that a lot of us constantly have, are these underlying beliefs that we're not enough, that we can't, like, how do you challenge like your underlying beliefs and assumptions? Like, what is it that you do to constantly challenge yourself of those types of beliefs, or what did you do now that you've been able to change that?
Yeah, I think it's many different factors, and I would be lying if I could say to the viewers here that I'm going to give you one answer that's going to change everything. But they say that it takes 66 days for you to form a new habit. So that means that if you feel like you are someone who's not complete, or you're not worthy, or you do not have the potential, it's going to take 66 days for you to reprogram that subconscious mind. Because maybe somebody watching here has been told growing up that you will only ever be good enough for retail. I was told that if I don't go to university and college, I will be stuck in TK Maxx for the rest of my life, working my way up the ladder, the corporate ladder, if I didn't go to university and college. And it's so important to understand here that the mind doesn't know the difference between true or false, it just hears fact. So what you feed the mind is so important. So I think step number one, what I needed to do was start educating myself and accepting and really coming to peace to understand that there's different knowledge out there.
Right.
The knowledge you have got right now that you've been passed on to you right now, it's a teeny tiny fraction, a tiny speck of what there is. Now, the biggest question is, what determines if that knowledge is true or false? There is no true or false. You registered, you hear it as fact. Are we still there?
Yeah, still here.
Oh, I think I've jumped off. I don't know what that happened. Am I still here? Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can still see you.
Okay. Anyway, so you register that as fact for you. And then what happens at that point is that becomes your belief system. So it's understanding that there is new knowledge, and it is understanding that you as an individual can create that new reality for yourself. Now, the next thing on top of that, what I needed to do is to get myself out of the current situation that I was in. So I needed to find myself a support group. I needed to be able to change my environment. I needed to know and understand that, hey, Lim, if you want this new life that you're talking about, you've got to surround yourself with people who've got the results that you want to get. Because is it true or true that you become the result of the 5 people that you surround yourself with? If you associate yourself with positive people, you're going to become positive. It'd be very difficult if you put a negative person inside a room, very, very difficult if you put a negative person inside a room of positive people for them to stay positive, for them to stay negative for that length of time. And that's what I done. I found myself a peer group, a network, an environment, a group of people that really completely changed absolutely everything for me. But it's about having that consistency around what you do. It's okay saying like, I'm going to be positive on Monday and Tuesday, and then for the rest of the week, I'm going to be negative. You need to make that commitment to yourself that I'm going to continue to educate myself on this new thing that I want to portray for myself continuously.
Mm-hmm.
And you make a commitment that you're going to find a mentor, a coach, and a support group to surround yourself with continuously to form that new habit.
Yeah. So speaking of like decisions and things like that, so a lot of the times that we hear, we need to separate our feelings from our decisions, right? Or from or separate the mind from your heart, right? In me, like that was like the biggest thing in the past. Like I made my decisions all heart, no mind, right? So what's your opinion on that? I mean, do you keep your feelings separate from your decision making, or do you incorporate those into your decision making? And if so, how do you do that?
I think for me personally, I love to connect with what feels right, what feels authentic, because we could go into the science of distinguishing between the mind and the heart and the intuition and all that sort of content that comes with it. But the best advice that I can ever give to someone is to understand that, your path is your path. And whenever you make a decision and whenever you put foot with something, that was always meant to be the destiny that you were supposed to go through. I always give this example where I say, if you're faced with a decision and you have to choose door A or door B, right? And for example, if you choose door B and you walk through with door B, you continue on the path of B. What a lot of people do is they bring themselves back and they say, well, I wonder what would have happened if I had went through with door A. And then that's where they bring on this depression. That's where they bring on this anxiety. That's where they bring on worry and all those low feeling vibrations. Because let me tell you something, when you've went through door B and a challenge comes up, if you had went through door A, you would have had a challenge as well. Fact, it's going to come up. Challenges will appear in your life. But it's not how you react to those challenges. It's your ability to be able to respond. So when you make that decision in life, that's the decision that you've made in the moment. Trust it, follow it. Because Steve Jobs, one of our greatest individuals that have ever come onto this earth, a lot of people are here because of him using this technology. He says that you can't connect the dots looking forwards, you can only connect them looking back. So remove all that worry and what if I had done this? What if I had done that? Whatever decision you choose to make it, flow with it, go with it. My decisions change all the time. This day last week, I could have had a totally different itinerary for this week, but I had to flow with it. I didn't know I was going to be on here a week ago, but I flowed with it. We can't predict anything. We can't plan anything. We can have a plan, as Wayne Dyer says, but never be attached to the plan. Have a plan, don't be attached to the plan. And be happy, be grateful in every moment, because a lot of people live with worry, stress, anxiety, overthinking, and none of that even exists. They create it for themselves.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things, for me that just what you were saying right now, I couldn't agree with you more. It's like, once you've made that decision, go with it and understand that, I think I really want to emphasize this to the listeners and the viewers is regardless of what path you choose, there's always going to be challenges. And one of the things for me that I've really taken, that has made a difference for me in the way that I respond now. And I think I really wanted to point that part out is if you react, that's a low vibrational, like it's something that it's never going to go right in the way that you want it because, you're reacting to the situation. Now, it doesn't matter what it is. You can respond to it properly. Just take a second, realize what's going on, take a deep breath, right? And I like how Eric says, I'm still alive, right?
And I think what I'm just going to touch on what you were saying there as well is to understand that before we came here, and I always say this to my group of people that I coach, but before we came here, we signed a contract, whether you're aware of it or not, but within that contract, nowhere did it say life was going to be all sunshine, flowers, and rainbows, right? Nowhere in the contract did it say, and we signed in the dotted line, we knew there was going to be challenges. We knew there was going to be up, and we knew there was going to be down. And we knew that we were entering into a world of duality, where there's truth, there's false, where there's positivity, there's negativity, where it's daylight somewhere, the sun is setting somewhere else in the world, where there's hot water, there's cold water. It's a world of duality.
Right.
We signed up for it. We signed that dotted line, whether you're aware of it or not.
Right. And I think, I said this earlier, it's like life is happening for us. I mean, the second you realize that you're a spiritual being having a human experience, and then so you realize that you can have whatever experience you choose to.
Yeah.
Now, certain things, and I agree with you 100% on the fact that we signed on the dotted line, that we came into this earth. And I think that we came in to learn certain things in this lifetime that we didn't learn in another lifetime, or that we want to learn or want to experience, right? So when you realize that that's what's happening, you can choose to either learn from the experience that is just happening right now to you, or because you think it's happening to you, or understand that it's happening for you to learn something from and extract that lesson from it. Because now, even the quote unquote worst things that have happened to me, I embrace them with all my heart now. If I were to see people that hurt me like that, to that point where I felt the way I did in the past, I would hug them and say, thank you for wounding me to my core so that I could see what needed to be healed.
Of course.
Without you, without those wounds being that deep, I would have never have seen that that's what I needed to heal. Right. And so now that I've healed those things, I embrace them. They're lessons. And in those lessons, now I can take it out and help others realize the lessons in what they think is a loss. Right. So now let's keep going on this thing right here now, like about values and things like that. Like, what values would you say that you're committed to in your life right now?
Values. I think my biggest values up there is most certainly kindness to every individual that I meet. Like that's a number one priority. Like when I meet someone, when I speak to someone, I have a huge passion and a huge desire inside. I'm going to make this person laugh before I leave them right now. I just love seeing people happy. Like that smile you have on your face right now, I need to see people happy. Like that's where I thrive upon. That's a huge value I have. Value is another thing that I value is very much is leadership and communication, right? that like and the ability to be able to communicate to each individual on their level. And I think this is a very big lesson for some people right now, that you who's starting out in this journey, this may be spiritual awakening or your entrepreneurial journey or this new way of life, you got to understand that those people who are closest to you, family members, friends, loved ones, spouses, partners, children, whoever they are, and if they don't quite get it right now, you have to respect them for where they are. You have to communicate with them in the most effective way and communicate with them on on their level. They are where they are. You are where you are. And I think that's a quality that I like to hold, and a value that I like to hold within myself, that the way I speak to you on here compared to the way I speak to an aunt or an uncle or somebody who's not quite on that vibration is totally different. Is totally different, and it's about being adaptable to different cultures, adaptable to different people, adaptable to different personalities. Because a lot of people go within and think, this is my way. I am this new coach. I am this new speaker. I've got the most positive mindset in the world. I'm here to change my brother and sister's life to become the most positive people ever. And they see you and they think you're fucking crazy. And they say, what's wrong? When I go home, I communicate with my brothers and sisters and my family the way I did before I left.
Yeah.
And I respect them for where they are. I think the art of communication is a huge value for anybody to grasp, because then you will know and you will understand that they are coming from their perspective. They know what they know, and you have to respect them and appreciate them from that. So values, communication, kindness, happiness, everything high vibrational.
Right. You know, one of the things that I've been doing lately, and I'm almost addicted to it now, is manifesting smiles. You know, so whenever I'm out walking, wherever I'm walking throughout the city, and I see someone that's walking towards me and they're not smiling, I'll point down in the ground and say, oh, hey, you dropped your smile.
Like right down there. Yeah.
And dude, it totally gets them to smile. Or I'll be like, whoa, careful. Don't step on your smile. Right.
Yeah.
And it totally just puts a smile on their face. And I can't, you know, it's such a good feeling to realize I just raised that person's vibration. Right. And then you just go about your day in such a more blissful way when kindness is one of the things that you focus on. Right. And another thing that I wanted to also kind of talk about that you just mentioned as well is how, like, when you want somebody else to learn something that you've learned, you have to understand that they might be at a different, like, in somebody, I heard this the other day, is spiritual maturity, right? Just because you might be at a higher spiritual maturity doesn't make you any better than another person. It's just, you're just at a different level. And so if you're trying to talk to somebody who's down here in their spiritual maturity with up here, they're going to look at, like we just said, you're crazy, right? And so when you can come down and communicate to them in the way that they learn, and this is one of the things that I tell a lot of my clients is, like, when you're sitting there talking to your, you know, significant other, and you're trying to get them to learn something the way you learned it, or the way you want them to learn it, and you keep going back and forth and round, obviously they're not learning it. So you need to talk to them in the manner in which they're going to be able to accept it, right? And take it in properly. And so yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, but I really like the value that you mentioned with kindness and communication. You know, I always tell people that if you don't communicate something to somebody, you have an expectation that they know what you want and know what you're thinking. And an expectation is nothing but a premeditated resentment, right? I mean, that's the way I look at it. So, all right. So kind of closing up here, because I really want to talk about some of the things that you're doing right now, Master Lim, is what would you say is the best advice that you can give someone to help plan a career rather than just staying in a job? Because that's one of the things that you mentioned kind of at the beginning, is if you would have stayed there. So, like, what's like the best advice you can give someone to that's looking to
someone who's currently in a career right now or in a job that you're not fully happy with? If you are someone who's in a job right now and that's your passion and you love it and you're working your way up there, go for it. Do your thing. Do what you do best. If you're someone who's not quite satisfied, who's not quite fulfilled, who's not quite at the level, and you know you've got so much more to give to the world, find out and get the clarity on what that thing is, right? Ask yourself, what is it? What do I see myself doing? What is it that I envision myself doing? And when you get clarity on that, find somebody who's already got the results that you want to get. Find somebody who's already doing what you are doing. Find somebody who's got the results, who's got the lifestyle, who's got the happiness, who's got whatever it is that you want. And you go seek that person
Right.
And you demand for them to become your mentor. You say, listen, I align with you, I resonate with you, I'm going to be your best student, you can take account on me, you can put me in here. And you know what, with it will come investment, not just financial investment, but time investment, mindset investment, physical investment. Let me tell you something, will it be worth it? Absolutely. Will you learn a lot? Yes. Will there be challenges? Yes. Will it be something that can change and totally revolutionize your life? 100%. And let me tell you something, it's the fastest way, because those people who think I can work it out by myself, you're going to hit all the mistakes that this person has already done. All the mistakes this person has already made. They've got the systems, they've got the tools, they've got the network. Don't be stingy on yourself. Be willing to invest in yourself, because you are number one in this game of life. You are priority, because you can't give on to other people what you do not have for yourself. So find a mentor, find a coach, somebody who's got your results, make it happen, do whatever it takes, and make it work.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that's one of the things for me is, you know, you said this earlier, surround yourself with the like-minded people of how you want to be, because in order to become something, you first have to be that, right? I can't become a successful person without taking the actions that it takes to be that, right? So I've got to learn that, and what better way than to learn from the mistakes of other people. So regardless of whether you think you don't have the money or whether you don't have the time, then obviously then your life to yourself doesn't matter enough to you, right? To be able to do that. So if you first have to invest the time, invest the time. With that time, you'll start doing the actions that is going to bring in the money. Once you have the money, then you invest in yourself. So it doesn't matter where you start, just start, right? Okay. So what is it that you're endorsing right nowadays, Master Lim? Because, you know, because you're successful. You've seen some success in your life and early in your life too. So let's talk a little bit about that stuff.
I think I'm very blessed right now. I believe, honestly, like my biggest core teaching right now is that a lot of the work that I'm doing right now is I've built up quite a big team within one of my primary businesses all around the world on a global scale. It's actually partnered with a company who is been around for 45 years. They're a medical graded company. It spells medical graded devices, and I'm just educating and spreading awareness to people all around the world to look after the internal. Everybody's focusing on this spiritual body as well, but the physical body doesn't operate without if we don't look after it. And what we put into ourselves in our physical body, what we put into our mental body and our spiritual body all plays a key role. And that's one of the primary things that I'm working on right now. I'm also doing a lot of spiritual coaching. It's just opened up pretty recently. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, a lot of clients come through. Helping people seek and find the happiness within themselves, and helping people look within rather than through external factors. I have a lot of people who have got money. I've got a lot of people who have got the materialistics, but they're not happy within. Right. And I love to show people how to dig deep in to find the key characteristics and to find those keys to be able to pick them up and say, I control how I feel today. So the biggest teachings and the way that my work comes about into my life is I just get into the vibrational alignment every single day. I honestly don't believe I'm someone who has worked hard, who has grafted and grinded to be where I am. I've always chose the path of least resistance. And when I get clear and specific on what it is that I want to do, people just show up to me. And I don't connect with people to say, hey, I want to charge you this amount of money to be your coach and your mentor. I say, hey, let's jump on a call first. Let's see if we even resonate with each other. Let's see if I'm right for you. Let's see if you're right for me. Let's see if I've got something that I can help you with. Then we go from there. And when you actually put everything else, your needs to one side about what you want to get out of this person, everything that you want becomes easy. I've such a beautiful team who work so well, who look after a lot of things for me, that because of the leader and the communicator that I have learned to become, everything works with effortless ease. I travel off to USA, to India, and I come back to the team having closed sales with effortless ease. And everything is just unfolding perfectly. And what I'm about now, and what a lot of my content creation about right now, is to understand this physical, mental, and spiritual body that we live in, that it is all connected. It's all one. And each part plays a huge component to getting what it is that you want. And the biggest goal for everybody on watching this call right now is this thing here. This thing here that you've got on your face is happiness. When you can get here, everything else shows up.
Yeah, and I could not agree with you more on that. I mean, that's for me the biggest change. You know, when people ask like, so what'd you do? I said, I just concentrate on my happiness. Well, how'd you do that? Well, and for me, it's I got in alignment. Alignment with what? My happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's like,
That's it.
and I mentioned this earlier, you can't become something without being it first.
That's it.
Right?
And I think one of the biggest things that I do before I work with someone, people come up to me and they say, yeah, I know you're all spiritual and you're happy and stuff and all that, but I want to make money. I want to learn the tools and how you make money and all this marketing stuff. And I was like, well, I'm sorry right now, but if you want to do that and you want me to share my tools and strategies on how I do that for myself and my team, we're going to first work on this thing, because this is the most important thing. Because I will not partner with somebody who is not, regardless if they want to pay me X amount of money right now. Listen, I'll give you 5K right now. No, I want to make sure we're aligned. I want to make sure that we connect. I want to make sure that there's a relationship that we can form here, because I'm going into this for long term, not just a quick buck here and there. This is long term. This isn't just employment. This isn't just another job where you're just another number. I respect and I value and I appreciate the people that I spend my time with, because time is my greatest asset here on this earth. And I audit my environment a lot. And I make sure that my vibration is up here so that I can keep bringing people's vibration to this level with the help of myself, my team, to keep it up here all the time. Because when we work together as a collective force, everything falls into place. Remember, you don't attract what you want in life. You attract who you are. You attract what you are. Yeah. What you put out there, you will attract and bring forth.
This is what I saw someone else doing earlier. So it's like the way to clap, right? Quietly.
Yeah, I think in Miami they do that whenever they like something. They're like this.
Yeah. No, I love and I love what you said. You know, and one of the things that I've been, you know, working with people too and telling them, you know, you don't get what you want, you get what you feel about what you want. And you said this earlier, right? So I really kind of wanted to touch up on that. It's like it's so important that we feel good inside first. And because it doesn't matter if, like, for example, with me, like I used to own a catering company. It's we did $3.7 million a year in business just in catering alone. We fed like close to 4,000 people daily, right? But inside, I wasn't happy. So what happened? I lost it all. So it didn't matter how hard I worked for it, because I wasn't happy inside. It was gone. Now, when the company went from zero to $3.7 million, I was ecstatic. Right. But then somewhere along the line, I fell out of alignment. Right. Yeah. And that's when it's, you know, that's where I'm now, is like what you said, is like just getting into alignment is so important. So important, because once you do that, everything else, I agree with you, everything else just starts to flow right in. Easy. So anybody who's interested in what Master Lim is doing right now, for those out here on my YouTube channel, we're going to go ahead and put the links below. And then for, you know, the Facebook channels and stuff like that, we'll figure that out. You know, you're in charge of that stuff, so we'll figure out how to do that.
Anybody watching, connect on Instagram as well. Instagram, I'm literally every day on there as well. You can touch me on here. I think you can see that right now. You got that?
Yep, Master Lim Official.
That's the one. You can connect on there. I just put out happy content, motivational content, funny content, a lot of travel, a lot of food on there. Yeah, you just want to see that in your life.
Right. Awesome, man. Well, hey, Master Lim, I really, really, really appreciate your time for joining us today. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll see you very soon.
Yes, of course. Thank you.